Hey, what's up, Stringlings? Last time we talked about the acoustic guitar fingerstyle cover of Lathi, performed by Josephine Alexandra. Amazing performance, of course. This time we're going to take a look at the original song. So we're actually going to look at Weird Genius featuring Sara Fajira in the original official video. Let's have a look. I cheated a little bit and I actually delved into this video in advance because I wanted to see what, I wanted to see what Josephine Alexandra was doing and how her arrangement of this song really kind of played through the various parts of it. And I have to say, she did a fantastic job. As I expected, it was a really great performance. This is a very, very complex video, and it's complex for a number of reasons. One of them is it is full of imagery that looks like it relates to Indonesian folklore. And I say that because there are a lot of Indonesian, specifically Javanese, folk elements, from the gamelan music to the style of dance, the style of dress, like the costumes. And so there's a plot line to this video that gives the impression that maybe this is from a legend of some kind. And as you may or may not know, I am a lover of folklore. In fact, a lot of the tracks on my new album that I'm working on are really inspired by specifically Finnish and, to a lesser extent, Nordic folklore. And so there's an affinity that I have to looking into these things. And if they're being influenced by, you know, the folklore of the country that they're from, I want to know. I want to know what's going on. Well, it turns out that that's not actually the case here. Lathi, I think, translates more or less as lips. And it has to do with the falsehood being spoken in a relationship. It's a very, very toxic relationship, as you'll see in the video. I don't want to give any spoilers because it's very intense. Yeah, take a look. Let's take a look at how this plays out. And I think you'll find this really interesting because it is a fascinating video. So right away we have gamelan instruments right at the top.
Broken all the rules.
Okay, so really great drop, and we know, I'm going to tell you right now, Weird Genius is a very popular EDM group from Indonesia. And so this is going to be very electronics heavy, but what they've done here is they've created that sort of classic introduction. We've got a character, we have a very minimalistic kind of synth sound, which is based on gamelan instruments, and this very, very pure vocal line. It's a beautiful vocal line, by the way. Yes, great. And there's our second character.
Everything has changed. It all happened for a reason. Down from the first stage. It isn't something we found for.
So what we have here is what we call in classical music, I'm talking about the musical part now, is this, it's called a sequence. Right? Da-da-ba-ba-bum, ba-da-ba-ba-bum, ba-da-ba-ba-bum. And it's a very, very classic sounding line. You would almost get like a disco feel. You could put that over a disco beat and it would be totally at home. It would also be totally at home in Bach, because it's very similar to something he would do orchestrally. And I can guarantee you, if you have heard enough of this style of music, the next thing is going to be the same sequence up a third. Watch. There it is. The claps on the offbeat. so intense. So that transformation was actually the foundation last year for a big challenge on TikTok it was the hashtag Lathi challenge, where people were doing transformations at that beat drop. That beat drop is very, very significant musically, of course, because it's making that shift between the opening stages of the relationship that the couple is having here to this inner transformation where the female character is sort of losing her sense of self, or losing her her innocence within the body of this toxic relationship. We're going to see throughout this montage. I'll back it up a little bit so we get that drop one more time. But there is a shift in the tonality as well. And the tonality refers to the key, not the timbre of the voice. But the tonality goes from, there are sort of two different scales that are used in gamelan music. And this one, so the first one is a little bit more pentatonic sounding. This one, I think it's called the Pelog scale, has 7 notes instead of 5. And the 7 notes are actually arranged the same as the Phrygian mode that we use in Western music, which, if you know from my previous videos talking about modes, is very typical of that dark heavy metal sound. It's the flat 2, it's the minor 3rd. If we add a flattened 5th, we have a Locrian mode. If we leave the 5th as it is, it has a very Spanish sound to it, which I had mentioned in the previous guitar video as well. So let's go back and watch this transformation one more time, and you'll hear that shift from the sort of major mode into this darker Phrygian sounding mode. Yeah. Beautiful. This is really intense. And we'll see here this combination of sort of Western and Eastern influences, a lot of hip-hop style dance moves, but as soon as you see the palms out and this move, this is very Indonesian type movement. We're also seeing the dancers, we're seeing a man on a leather horse, which gives us all kinds of layers of conflict, because that dance with the horse puppet, I believe, stems from conflict with the Europeans. So there's all kinds, I'm just switch off autoplay here. So all kinds of really cool things happening. Let's keep going. The shadow puppets. There he is. There's that sequence again. So now you can get a real sense of the toxicity in the relationship, and the intensity of the music, I think, really is driving this home. Now, I always have this question in the videos, are they interpreting the song in the video, or are they interpreting the plot of the video in the song? It goes both ways as far as I'm concerned. And she has had enough of that. She is done with this crap, man. That's hard. That is hard. Yeah, honestly, the production on this beat is insane. It's so good. So significantly, you notice at the end of the song here, she has not gone back to the person she was before, and I think that's, you know, metaphorically very significant. Coming out of a toxic relationship, people are changed. She's fundamentally changed, and now she has this darkness is seated in her, and it's fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful performance. I think that's it. Okay, so a lot of things happening here, and I think so. I don't want to get too much into the cultural aspect of it. Just pick my hair over. Don't want to get too much into the cultural aspect of it. If I'm white-splaining a little bit too much to the Indonesian audience, I apologize. I'm trying to make kind of clear some of the things that are happening to the audience where I am. Now, when we study music history, we study sort of in time periods, and at the very end of the Romantic period, basically during the 1800s, there was a major event in Europe. It was called the Paris Exposition. Happened in 1889. And during the course of this exposition, which was a good chunk of the year, spring to fall basically, some like 30 million people went through the exhibits, and it was exhibits from everywhere. This was actually where the phonograph, the original record phonograph, was first debuted to the world, but also introduced to the European audience was Javanese gamelan music. And this was a major breaking point in Western music, because even though sort of in the history of Western music, there's a tendency towards appropriation, right? Hey, Native American music sounds kind of cool. Let's make it into, you know, a European symphony. Or, hey, African American music sounds kind of cool. Let's make it into, you know, these cakewalks and things that composers were writing at the time. And it was partly ethnomusicology and partly just interpolation and saying, I like this, I find this very cool, I want to explore how I can use this as part of my musical language. And I think we do a lot of that kind of back and forth. As we noted, there's a lot of kind of hip-hop stuff happening in the context of this song as well. So there's a lot of kind of back and forth. Now, Debussy and Eric Satie, two composers very active in France at the time of that exposition, became very enamored of Balinese and Javanese gamelan music. And in particular, they were especially fascinated by the use of pentatonic scales, which were quite exotic at the time. I mean, this is 1800s Paris, right? So quite exotic at the time. And in addition, they were introduced to other kinds of modes that they would consider to be exotic modes. Some of these modes, these scales, were actually in use in the Middle Ages quite abundantly. As we know, the church modes included a Phrygian mode, which is essentially the same thing. There's slight tuning differences, but essentially the same organization of pitches as the Pelog scale of gamelan music. Gamelan music is really primarily percussive, but this style of singing that she's doing here with that particular mode gets used quite a bit more in ritualistic or sort of ritual ceremony. So it has a more spiritual component to it than the pentatonic type modes. And that influence of Javanese gamelan music, if I grabbed a music history textbook off my shelf, they would talk about how influential gamelan music was on the music of the 20th century. And part of that comes down to breaking through these barriers of major and minor scales. Everything was major and minor scales with some chromatics. But it turns out that by the middle of the 20th century, you could do all kinds of things with all of these funky modes that they were finding all over India and China and Indonesia and so on. And so that's what's at play here in the influence of this thing. What I love about this song is that it has a character arc. I am sad that it's only 3 minutes long. I want more of this story, or stories related to it. So my sincere hope is that this is some kind of a piece of a song cycle, because this would be fantastic staged as kind of scenes from, you know, relationships or whatever their concept is. I don't know enough about it. I hope that's something that's happening here, because I want more of this. And I do think that this song would make a very excellent metal cover. There is a guitarist from Toronto who did a metal jam with this one. Now, that's kind of my segue into this. This guitar, a couple of people have asked on Instagram about this guitar that shows up on my couch here. So this is actually a kit from Solo Music Gear. This is an LPK 10 kit with a flame maple top. That's why it has no guts, it has no hardware. Those are all in a box. Now, I've done kit builds like this before. The Strat is one of the videos that I have a walkthrough of all the modifications that I did to turn a regular kit guitar into a higher level professional instrument just with doing upgrades. My followers, you know, the couple dozen of them that there are, suggested, because I said, do you want me to do this as a warm vintage Les Paul, or do you want me to do this as a modern metal instrument? And overwhelmingly they voted for a modern metal Les Paul, which is going to require new pickups. I've already got some very cool hardware from Iron Age guitars, some glow-in-the-dark knobs, and a kill switch that is going to be just massively awesome. I've never had a kill switch on a guitar. I was used to just plug and unplug the jack. But here's the thing, guys. I would like to do this song on this guitar. So I'm going to put a link in the description to this video saying that, okay, it will be a link to PayPal. If I can get enough little bits of cash together to cover the cost of the new pickups, I am looking at a very specific set of pickups for this instrument, as well as new tuners. I'm using the stock bridge that came with it. It's fine. Probably replace the nut and a couple of other things on it, switches and knobs and such. But basically we're looking at upgrading the electronics and turning this into a black burst to really highlight the awesomeness of the flame top on here. I don't know if you can really see it all that well. But, so let's run a little fundraiser here. If I get enough cash built up, myself, of course, and anything that you guys want to donate, within, let's say, by the end of March, then the very first song I will use to premiere this instrument will be a full metal cover, drums and everything. I'm going to mix and arrange the entire thing of Lathi by Weird Genius. So give that some consideration. The link is down below. And, you know, if you don't feel like that's a thing you want to get into, that's totally fine too. I'm just putting it out there and to say, like, the faster we can get that, the faster I can get stuff ordered and we can get this thing built and have a brand new metal cover of this really awesome song from Indonesia out here in the Etherverse. Okay, so that's a thing. I'm just putting that out there. So yeah, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and you know, subscribe, hit that bell button for updates, and yeah, leave a comment down below and let me know if there's anything else you would like to hear. That's all for today. Thanks very much for stopping by.